I'm going to show you something. This is for the kids. In fact, this whole message is mostly for the kids because, guys, if you can catch this, you will grow up differently. You just will. You'll have an entirely different life than I had. You'll have an entirely different life than probably most of your parents did if you can catch this early. So because of that, we're going to show you something else to just kind of set the stage here. You got that picture? Not that one. That one. We're going to find out what happens to that little guy.
That ain't little.
That ain't little? That's 9 pounds. My mom's pastor always accused her of having a basketball under her shirt because I was around one. But that's me, shortly after I was born. And so as we move through this story of Jacob and Rachel and Leah, we're also going to find out a little bit of what happens to that guy. Now, we've got to catch up on the story, and I'm just going to tell it to you. But Abraham is, maybe cute. Abraham, of course, gave birth to Isaac. We talked about Isaac last week. Isaac grows up. Isaac has 2 children of his own, 2 important children of his own, Jacob and Esau. Esau is the eldest one. Jacob is the younger one. For some reason that I still don't understand, and I've studied it, there is a time and a place in the Hebrew culture where blessing was bestowed upon someone, usually the oldest child. So as Isaac began this process of giving the blessing to Esau, Jacob comes in and steals it. He pretends to be Esau. See, Jacob was kind of, Jacob was a little more like me, actually. He was a little more, apparently, a little more artsy. He was a little more in the kitchen, and that kind of thing. Esau, his brother, was hairy and a manly man and went out and hunted. And, in order to pull off this deception, Jacob covers himself in goat fur, and I forget what else. But anyway, so somehow covering himself in goat fur is what makes the nearly blind Isaac think that Jacob is Esau. So I don't know what that says about Esau and how he smelled and what he was really like, but so that's what happens. So Jacob steals the blessing and then has to escape because Esau wants to kill him. And so that's kind of where we pick up, and that's going way too fast through a lot of really wonderful stuff. But Jacob escapes from Esau and wanders into this town. It's chapter 29 of Genesis, if you want to start following along. He wandered into town where he found a well, because you've got to find a well when you wander into a town in that time period. And he finds out that he is in the land of his father's relatives. Well, that's really helpful. If you run away from home and you're escaping and you got nothing to your name, essentially, and you happen to find, hey, Uncle Laban. I'll bet I can hook on with him for a little while and he'll take care of me. The men gathered at the well told Jacob that Rachel was on her way to water her father's sheep. So that's the second main character we got here is Rachel. And only after she and all the other shepherds arrived would they roll this massive stone away from the well. So then here's what happens. Rachel comes sauntering in from the distance, and Jacob sees her and is so overcome, he is so smitten, he is so in love with Rachel, that instead of waiting for someone to come along, several people actually to come along and roll this stone away, he just does it by himself. So he goes full Captain America and just grabs the stone and just, because he's just trying to impress Rachel. And meanwhile, Rachel, presumably an adoring Rachel, looks on batting her eyelashes, right? I mean, this is kind of the thing that happens here. Verse 11 puts it this way, then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. Now, the Jesus Storybook Bible makes it seem like what happens next was Laban's idea, and it might have been, because Laban was crafty. Laban could tell that Jacob wanted Rachel, but I think it's important that we read the actual scriptures, the way that it actually reads in Scripture. Verse 15 says, then Laban said to Jacob, because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be? Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. Now Jacob loved Rachel, and so he said, I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. So all the way down in verse 16, we're finally introduced to Rachel's older sister, Leah. All the way down in verse 16. Leah is arguably the most important person in this story, though. Because it is her line, it is her son that is in the line of Jesus. But all the way down to 16 is when we finally get to her. And listen to how she's described. Rachel, we know, is attractive enough to turn Jacob into Superman. Jacob, who was, more at home in the kitchen, probably. But here's Leah, verse 17. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. Now we have to make some guesses here, and in fact, lots of people have looked at this, and that word for weak, Leah's eyes were weak, it actually means fragile or breakable, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It just doesn't, what are we actually saying here about Rachel? And notice that it really doesn't have to do with her eyes, because it doesn't say Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel could see really, really far. It doesn't say that. It says Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful of form and face. So what we're to take from this is that there was something about Leah's eyes that made her unattractive. I was listening, again, J.D. Greer says that, I don't know, maybe when one eye was looking north, one eye was looking south. We don't know. Maybe they were bug eyes. Maybe they were whatever. But there's something about her eyes that made her unattractive. Laban said, verse 19, it's better that I give her to you than to give her to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Now it came time for the wedding. We'll summarize this part too. It came time for the wedding. It is implied that there was alcohol involved, shall we say. Women at that time period would have been veiled, completely veiled. And so, anyway, you know the story perhaps. Laban gave Leah to Jacob instead of Rachel. So it came about in the morning, verse 25. Behold, it was Leah. Imagine the shock. Jacob thinks he's finally gotten Rachel. He's worked 7 years for Rachel. He thinks he's finally gotten what he was looking for, and behold, it was Leah. Just remember that. We'll come back to that. And he said to Laban, what is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me? But Laban said, it is not the practice in our place to marry out the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other one for the service which you shall serve with me for another 7 years. So Jacob did so, completed a week, and he gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. Jacob never argued, he never pushed back, he never renegotiated, partly because he is conscience-stricken. Just as Isaac reached out in the dark, thinking that he was finding Esau, but actually finding Jacob, Jacob reached out in the dark, thinking he was finding Rachel, and actually finding Leah. 29:25, it may as well say you Jacob to me, because Jacob means deceive. Why have you deceived me is the exact same thing that Isaac said to Jacob. There's another reason that Jacob didn't argue. And I won't get into all the details because of the kids. But what you need to know is that what at first glance looks like a sloppy, sappy love story is anything but. Actually, Jacob is obsessed with Rachel. And the biggest clue is in verse 21, where it says, give me my wife, in part. That whole verse according to commentators, that whole verse is the source of embarrassment to the Hebrews. That whole verse, there's a vulgarness and a crudeness to that verse. That when they were translating and when they were looking at this, it was disturbing. So Jacob is obsessed with Rachel. If I have her, my life will mean something. I'll be able to leave behind my shame from the past. I'll be able to move forward with my life. We don't know exactly what he was thinking, but he was thinking, if I have her, I'm going to work 7 years for her. That's crazy, by the way. Yes, there was a dowry, there was a bride price paid, but 7 years of labor was way overpaying. He was obsessed with her. He had to have her for some reason. We don't know what he was thinking, but we know that he wanted her. And that, in fact, becomes the theme of the whole chapter. Because Jacob's thinking, if I have Rachel, I will whatever. Laban is thinking, if I can just get rid of Leah somehow or other, if I can just pawn her off somehow or other, then I'll be free. And Leah, well, we'll get to her. But there's really nothing unusual about any of this. See, put me back up again. This little guy grew up, and this guy has been through a whole series of these events. This guy has been through a whole series of, if I just have this, then this. And so have you. Even if you're small, you've had this happen. Because when you're small, most often it's like, even if I could just have this toy, if I could just hit this hit, if I could just win this game, then I will whatever. Then I'll matter. Then I'll, etc., etc. So that little guy has been through a whole series of these things. If I have that person's forgiveness, I can move forward in life. If I have that person's respect, then I'll matter. So that little guy grew up to, we'll show you another picture, that guy. We call this the Randy phase, for reasons that will become apparent in just a moment. We call this the Ralphie phase. Your shoe tryout, yeah. Oh my. I should have actually put the actor side by side with me, because that's uncanny. And the source of so much torment in my life. But right about this age is when I had one of these, if I had this, everything would be better. And it involved Drew Rimmer's boots. Drew Rimmer was a kid in school that was one of the cool kids. For some reason, in grade school, I actually was one of the cool kids. I don't know when that ended. Because, crying out loud, I looked like that. Look at those glasses. But I was with the cool kids in grade school, and Drew Rimmer had these boots, cowboy boots. And they were, what's the word I'm looking for? They were latticed. The leather in them was latticed. Looked cool. I actually have physical memories of being under my desk, grabbing a pencil or something, and looking across the room at Drew Rimmer's boots and thinking, oh man, I gotta have those boots. So, we went to JCPenney, because that's what you did in my time period, and we found those boots. But they weren't my size. So we got different boots. Yay! So I didn't have what I wanted. I didn't get what I thought I would get. I was so disappointed. Seriously, disappointed. Let's go back to Leah. Verse 30 says this. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he did serve Laban for another 7 years. Verse 31, now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son and named him Reuben. Now, when people are named in the Bible, it always has a story behind it. It always means something. Some of your names mean something. They all do, probably. They all come from somewhere. But this one, listen to why she named him Reuben. She said, because the Lord has seen my affliction, surely now my husband will love me. See, she thinks that because she's given birth to Jacob's firstborn son, Jacob will love her. If I do X, Y will happen. If I do this, then she's going to do that. If I do this, then she's going to love me. If I do this, then he's going to love me. So then, this little guy grows up, and he becomes that guy. Oh my gosh, it's getting more embarrassing. That guy is about the age when we started doing capitals in school. So you had to write the state, and then you had to write the capital. Or the state was given to you, and you had to write the capital, or the capital was given to you, and you had to write the state. No one in the classroom could touch me for how fast I could do that. Except for Nancy Foster. By the way, you can tell, some of you older ones especially, adults can say, you can tell these are shaping moments in our lives. These are shaping moments in your kids' lives because I remember these people. I remember first name, I remember last name. If I was a good enough artist, I could draw you a picture of Nancy Foster. Because she and I had this heated competition because we were the top students in the class. And everything, whether it was state capitals or math problems or whatever, we competed because, again, if I can do this, if I can beat her, then people will like me. If I can beat her, then people will respect me. If people, I'll matter. Verse 33. This is Leah again. This one touches me more than the rest. Then she conceived again and bore a son and said, because the Lord has heard that I am unloved, he has therefore given me this son also. So she named him Simeon. Simeon comes from that idea of being heard. So I've got this second son now. Maybe now I'll be noticed. People will hear me. Jacob will hear me. The people around me will hear me. And I won't just be this little teeny tiny voice. Maybe I'll matter and I'll be heard. It's really kind of like the Boots story. But by the time we get to one more picture, I thought, golly, that's junior high. In junior high, the thing to have was Izod. Anybody remember Izod? Izod was a pullover golf shirt, 3 buttons, collared, and it had an alligator right here to show you that it was Izod. Well, when you can't afford Izod, you get Le Tigre, which was a collared shirt with 3 buttons and a golf, shirt with 3 buttons and a collar and a tiger. To just show to everybody that it's not Izod. And then I'll show you one last picture. Anybody want to guess how old I am at that point?
24.
Spoken like somebody who knows. Anybody want to guess? Go for it. 15? 16? 17? Oh, we're getting closer. This is my senior picture. This is right around the time when I met Deanna. So the fact that she did not immediately fall in love with that hunk, I just don't know. Because to me, I was 12. So we gotta get rid of that. Just put something else up there. That's huge, by the way. If I have a sermon illustration that I use sometimes where I put a tarantula on the screen. If I ever consider that, just slap me. Yeah, exactly. Because Mr. Sprinkles up there would be terrifying. That's what one of the little girls named my spider that I show, is Mr. Sprinkles. Alright. So, pretty much everyone in this story is grasping at something to make them feel loved, significant, powerful, useful, something. They're grasping at boots, they're grasping at Lake Tigray, or rather Izod, they're grasping at, whatever. And then this happens, verse 35. The rest of this is just set up for this. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, this time, I will praise the Lord. Therefore she named him Judah. And then she stopped bearing. Now, as I said, Judah is the one that's in the line of Jesus. Reuben's important, Simeon's important, but Judah is the one that's in the line of Jesus. So, but look at what happens. She says, this time, I'll praise the Lord. And the word for Lord there is not the common name for God, it's the covenant name for God. It's Yahweh. And let me try to describe the difference for you. I'm not going to ask the kids because I'm afraid that some of them might not be suitable for broadcast. But like, your mom and dad probably have pet names for each other. Okay? That's like the covenant name for Yahweh. Or better yet, you know what? Your parents probably have pet names for you. Since he was born, I called him Bubba. I've called her Jojo, I've called her Joro. I can't remember the other nicknames right now off the top of my head. That's the covenant name. The God, the Elohim, is just a name for God. But when you get down to the covenant name of Yahweh, it's personal. Because right there at that moment, somewhere between Simeon and Levi and these other folks, the other children, she gave birth to, or rather God reached her in a way that was covenant. She experienced God's one-way love. She experienced God's grace. Because she decides, this time, I'm going to praise the Lord. That name that your parents call you is personal. It's meaningful. There's weight behind it. There's a story behind it. And so Leah stopped trying to earn the love of Jacob and instead received the love of God. That's what happens. This is marvelous. Moving from earning love to receiving love. Moving from desperately clinging and trying and beating yourself up and sweating in order to earn love versus resting in the love that you are, resting in the truth that you are already loved. See, you're always going to look like Leah to somebody. You're always going to come up short. You're always going to chase Rachel's, only to find out that they're Leah's. This Derek Kidner that I talked about before says that, behold, it was Leah. Those 4 words are the very embodiment of the disillusionment of all of mankind. Everything the world offers turns out to be Leah. Every time you think you found a Rachel, in the morning, when you finally wake up, it's going to be Leah. No matter what you think is Rachel, it's always Leah. So, in the silly cases that I just brought to you, boots, and I don't even remember what else, the shirts and the academics and stuff like that, that's all trying to get at Rachel and recognizing, that ain't it. I didn't do it. You are always going to find people who don't think you are everything you think you are, but in God's eyes, you are loved. In God's eyes, we're all Rachel. In God's eyes, you are loved by one far more powerful and good than all of the Rachels and Leahs that we keep chasing. If y'all knocked me in the head and took $100 from me, that would be wrong, right? I should, if I can, I'm going to prosecute, right? You're going to have to pay a penalty. You're going to have to take a little jail. I don't know what happens if you knock me in the head and take my $100. I don't know what happens when you get prosecuted for that. But that's wrong. But just imagine that you knock me in the head, you take my $100, but I have $100 million in a bank account. Does it matter that you took my $100? Yeah, it does. It still does. It's wrong. You shouldn't have done it. I'm going to prosecute? Probably. But it doesn't ultimately matter. So just recall this. When someone hurts you, maligns you, tells lies about you, when someone does evil against you, it's wrong. It's evil. Feel the hurt. Grieve the loss. Deal with the hurt. But deal with the hurt by running to the throne of God. Deal with the hurt by running to the throne, because we have an unimaginably powerful waterfall of love and grace and acceptance that's flowing to us from the throne constantly. See, God doesn't love us because God doesn't love you because you're beautiful. You're beautiful because He loves you. God doesn't need us to be beautiful so that He can love us. We become beautiful because He loves us. He doesn't love us because we're valuable. We're valuable because He loves us. He doesn't love us because we're pure. His love purifies us. He doesn't love us because we're strong. His love is what gives us the strength in order to do anything. This is the flip, the change that makes all the difference in the world. Martin Luther, I think it was Charlie that was quoting him earlier. Martin Luther says this: the love of God does not find, but creates that which is pleasing to it. It creates and then brings you to it. God's love makes the unlovely lovable. He doesn't look for the strong, the brave, the good, the pure, the talented. His love creates that which is lovely. When you feel like a Leah, you must embrace that God's love has been set on you unconditionally. Conditioned not on how you perform, but on the fact that He has made you His grace through faith. He's made you His. When you were teaching your kids to walk, you remember those first few steps? Right? His first steps happened at a prayer meeting. We were at my house having a prayer meeting, First Church. And I'm probably telling this story wrong, and Deanna will correct me later. But his first steps happened there at the prayer meeting. And everybody's got their eyes closed, of course, and he's doing that kind of stumbling back and forth between two people. And, one of the people lets go of the hands, and Deanna's like, open your eyes! And so I did, and I saw his first stumbling steps to, I think, Grandma Dorothy. Okay, when that happens, they take those first stumbling steps and then fall down. There's not a parent in here that just looks at that and goes, 2 steps. Oh, my kid's broke. It's not working. I don't know what happened there. Look, kid, I can do it. What is wrong with you? No one does that. No, you celebrate. You go, yes! You just walk 2 steps. You just walk 3 steps. You just walk 4 steps. And it's that encouragement and that acceptance and that love that ultimately gets that kid to walking. So I tell you that story just to remind you that God is not looking for you to just do this. He really isn't. He's celebrating the fact that you took a couple of steps because it's His love and His acceptance that enables you to take the next one. It's so powerful. It's so needed. It's something that I will say over and over again for the rest of my life. Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. And then he says, it's no trouble for me to say it again. And it's good for you to hear it again. So I just repeat these things over and over again because I need them. I need them in my own head. Judah was in the line of Jesus. And Leah's lineage became beautiful because God gave her His beauty. And one day, God is going to make my outside match the beauty of the inside of the Jesus that He's already put in there. Goodness, we are looking forward to that day. Jesus Himself is going to be rejected. That's one of the reasons He comes from this rejected family line. Jesus became weak and ugly so that He could give us His beauty. I don't have to accomplish this, and this in order to see great things happen. Great things already have happened because He has set His love on us. And I feel like I have to acknowledge a couple of other things. And we'll close. That's where every message that I've heard with this interpretation ends. Leah got it. Finally, she stopped trying to earn Jacob's love and just recognized she's already loved, and she began to celebrate that. She got the gospel, and she got the one-way love. But if you keep reading, the very next child she has, the name indicates she forgot. And she goes back to trying to earn somebody else's love again. And it's just that reminder that we need reminded. Every time we keep going after Rachel's, every time we see that they're actually Leah's, we need reminded. The love that we are actually looking for, the acceptance that we're actually looking for, the strength that we're actually wanting, the purity, everything, it's already found in Christ. It's already ours. Last thing I wanted to point out, just because I should have said it earlier, but I don't want, especially the kids, to get the idea that the academics aren't important. I don't want you to get the idea that striving for something isn't important. It is. It's powerful. But it's when you begin to understand the gospel, it becomes grace-based effort and not effort-based grace. Let me say that again. Again, to try and repeat it, to try and catch it. The Christian life is about grace-based effort, not effort-based grace. Grace-based effort is, I'm loved, therefore I obey. I'm loved, therefore I love. I'm forgiven, therefore I forgive. Effort-based grace is, yeah, but if I don't do this, this, and this, then God won't, etc., etc. Paul himself said something. It was there. Bring it back up. Paul himself said, His grace to me was not without effect. In other words, His grace to me was effective. His grace did something in me and to me. And then, he says, I worked harder than all of them. That's grace-based effort. God, that was a rambling mess.